The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. This is our quick 25-minute demonstration on 3 best practices for managing name and ISO 17020 accreditation. My name is Karen Arriviaga, and I am the Sales Development Representative here at Qualtrics. Now, as we go through the webinar today, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those into the GoToWebinar application questions area. We will review those at the end of the presentation, especially if we have some time, and you can stay over a little bit after the 25 minutes and just see what people are asking and review those so everyone else can hear. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Without further ado, who is Qualtrics? We are a compliance management software company, and we take definitely a technology team approach to our offering. We do bring a quality management system to our customers, and we pair that with our team commitment to them and their industries to make sure we can help simplify their heavy compliance burdens with our products and our services. We were founded in 1993. I'm also happy to say that we are also ISO 9001 registered and have been that way since '96. We actually use our own product for all of our own accreditations, and so all of us are within Qualtrics doing our own accreditations and compliance responsibilities on a regular basis. We are located in Blacksburg, Virginia. That's home to Virginia Tech, if you're familiar with the Virginia area. And we do have a lot of our team here in Blacksburg. A lot of our customers really appreciate that we do have our services team, our training team, and our support team located right here in Blacksburg, and they're easy to contact. So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to review 3 common compliance tasks that you would often see when you're moving towards NAME or 17020 accreditation, and then the best practices on how we recommend to manage them, specifically with a quality management system like Qualtrics. First, how do you manage and stay up to date with written and implemented standard operating procedures? Second, we're going to look into how you automate management review of processes and procedures all the way through completion. And then lastly, we're going to look at tracking equipment, maintenance, also calibration, and then even testing user competency across the board. And so we're going to use a couple of different features to really attack these tasks. So the first task that we've got is how do you manage and stay up to date with those written and implemented standard operating procedures. And so what we did is we pulled up NAME accreditation, and we also pulled up 17020, and we really started going through the standards, and I wanted to pick out specific areas that dealt with this. With NAME, typically you will see a paragraph that starts something like this. Does your office have a written implemented policy or standard operating procedure signed in the last 2 years covering ... This is mentioned multiple times throughout the actual standard itself. And the ... can be anything from quality manuals, body recovery policies, safety policies, or even if you have state requirements that you have to adhere to. This is going to be listed in NAME. And then if you switch over to ISO 17020, specifically section 4.2.3, they're actually talking about, in that part of the standard, complete control of your whole document process. And so with both of these parts of these standards, there's a couple of best practices that we like to point out to be able to manage them. First best practice is making sure that you have a system that really allows you to manage all of your documents in one place. We feel like this is important for organizational purposes, for people to be able to access them, and so on. Second, set document expiration dates. I know within ISO and also with NAME, they want you to make sure that you are tracking these things on a regular basis. In NAME, they specifically say signed in the last 2 years. And so do you have a product that allows you to set expiration dates and then also set notifications? And then also, are you able to run gap analysis reports that let you know where you have documents located within the standard and supporting a specific part of a standard, and so you really get nice visibility into what you have in your quality management system. So we're going to go into Qualtrics, and we're going to take a look at our document management system first. So this is Qualtrics. This is our inbox. To get to our documents area where all of our documents are housed, I'm going to go up here to the top left area and click Documents. And what this is going to pull up is actually our document tree. Now the document tree itself allows you to really have your own folder system and folder structure. When you first come and start using Qualtrics, you can design your own structure that fits the way that your organization is really built and structured. And so you can just drill down to certain areas, find different procedures, policies, forms, and eventually get to your documents. Now these folder structures can be by department, they can be per location, they can be a couple of different ways depending up to what you would like. The great thing about this is that you're always going to see the most up-to-date version of a document. Any user that comes here for a document is never going to see something that's out of date or has expired. We do accept all types of documents, and so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, videos, PDFs, and more. You control who has view and edit permissions. And so if you have a certain folder that you only want management to see, you can actually hide that specifically only to management. You can also, users can have approval options, edit options, and publish options within a document, and then all of that will happen within Qualtrics too. The great thing about this as well is that with those approvers and those editors and publishers, they can even get notifications and reminders sent to them through emails, letting them know that, okay, you have a document to approve or edit, and so they can get notified without being in Qualtrics. So the next area I'm going to go to, I'm actually going to pick one of the documents here, and I'm going to go to its properties. We're not going to open the document right now. We're just going to jump straight over to properties. And I'm going to show you a couple of the general settings here that I like to point out specifically that helps with those standards. The first one under this general area is going to be where you set expiration dates. Again, this is something that will be very important and something that you're going to want to be notified when a document is starting to expire. And so this is where you would actually set up that notification. You can determine if a document is going to expire. Who's it going to expire to? So who's going to be notified when this document expires? Is it the last editor? Is it the document manager? And then how often will it expire? Is it going to expire every day? Would be a little hard to manage, but maybe once a year, or in this case, if we're talking about name, it's every 2 years. Or you can even specifically call out a date. And so if I want this to expire in December of 2019, I can do that here as well. And so that's where you would set up those. And then, of course, when it reaches that date, somebody will be notified that it's time to act on that document. Another area I want to point out is this Documents by Standards area. And the nice thing about the Documents by Standards area is that it allows you to associate a specific part of a standard to a document. That way you can actually see and run analysis of where you have holes and gaps within your procedures and things like that. And so you can see here with the calibration procedure document that I actually have 17020 section 4, section 5, section 4.23. You can really drill down to specific areas where this document is applicable to that standard. And then from here, I can actually run a report real fast of a Documents by Standards report that will allow me to choose a standard. I'm going to actually choose 17020, I'm going to do specific areas within that. And I'm going to run a gap analysis and see what documents I have supporting those specific areas of the standard. Here's my report. And then here's even a visual representation of that report. And if I expand to all, I can see all of the documents that are supporting that one area that I have in the system. So if I have any blanks or anything missing when I'm going into that internal audit or I'm going into the real audit, I can make sure that I have documents there to support that standard if it's necessary. We actually heard from one of our medical examiner customers not too long ago, and this is actually one of their favorite features because it gives them that visibility of what they have in the system and being able to do that. All right, let's move on to task number 2. And with task number 2, we're going to be talking about how do you automate a management review of policies and procedures through completion. And specifically today, we're going to talk about corrective actions. So a corrective action is a way to report an action that goes wrong in a technical process of some sort. And so, for example, if we release a body to a wrong entity, forgetting to include or release personal property with a body, or a mismarked histology example or a sample. The idea is by submitting a corrective action request, you're letting the QA department know that there is an issue and that analysis of why the action happened and it plans on how to avoid that mishap in the future needs to be implemented. And so in NAME, specifically section A8, they talk about is there a documentation of corrective action taken for identified deficiencies. And then there's a whole section on this within ISO 17020. It's section 8.5.2, where they really want you to be documenting these, tracking them through the entire process, and then making sure that they get to completion, and then making sure that the process that was implemented has taken effect and is ultimately correct. And so what we decide, or what we say our best practice around this is creating a workflow. Now a workflow to us here at Qualtrics is any process that you have within your organization that has a step or a flow to it. For example, of course with these corrective actions, but you also have internal audits, everyday procedures like equipment requests or management reviews. Some examples that are starting to become topics with some of our medical examiner customers that we've heard from them in the past. New employee onboarding is one. If you don't have a system that does that already, that's a workflow that some of our MEs are looking into putting within Qualtrics. And then also shift planning, especially if you are a 24/7 medical examiner's office, making sure that you have control over when people are taking off and vacation and when they're planning to be on their shifts. You can actually create workflows around that here as well if you don't already have a system in place. And so there's a lot of different things you can do within Qualtrics that way. But what we're going to show you now, we're going to talk about this specific workflow, the corrective action. And so what I'm actually showing you is the Qualtrics Workflow Designer. And this Workflow Designer is a great way, and we offer this with a product. It allows you to map out your process. The very first thing that we tell our customers when they join us and they want to start working with workflows is we want you to visualize that process. And so this gives you the engine to do so. It works very much like Microsoft Visio and allows you to really break out the different steps. And so the steps for this corrective action, number 1, a user is going to report a claim of deficiency. From there, once they type all of that information in that you would need, they're gonna click a button and hit submit to QA. They're gonna walk away. Their job for this corrective action, they've supplied everything they needed to, and now it's moving to the quality department. Once it comes to the quality department, they get to read the claim of deficiency and then decide what comes next. Was there enough action taken when the claim first happened? And was first realized that they can go ahead and close it, or does it need to move to an analysis and plan development stage? And if so, what does that look like? And so they might move it forward to analysis and plan development. From there, they're going to fill in more information and submit to corrective action review. From there, it'll go through the review plan and what does that look like. All of these are different steps. And eventually, once an action has been, a review has been completed, you'll have an implementation on how to fix it. And then it'll go to evaluation. And then once that evaluation has been done and signed off, it'll be there for final approval. And so this really walks you through each individual step by creating different forms at each individual step that will collect information and allow you to manage it all electronically. What this is replacing are physical paper forms. You might have a form for corrective actions that somebody might fill out. They might take that piece of paper and stick it on somebody else's desk, and from there that paper might have to go to somebody else. And so instead of risking that paper getting lost or not seen or so on, you can actually do it all electronically here. So we're going to go back to Qualtrics and we're going to go to the inbox, and I'm going to take you now to the workflow that supports that designed step-by-step guide, and that is the corrective action request. And so if a user, something goes wrong and they need to come here and actually fill this out, they would click on this workflow. This is a form that has been set up in Qualtrics. This is where they would report their claim of deficiency. Beyond that, they would also allow you to tell you where it happened, and so you can have pick lists like these that are required. Required is a great way to label fields and make sure you're getting appropriate information. You can even upload specific standards, like if there was an issue with something that dealt with a specific standard, you can upload that. And then you can even add details of if it was something was immediately done to fix that issue. If you have pictures or anything to support the the corrective action, you can put that here. And then of course you have your password. This is optional. This is something you don't have to do for every step, but if you do want to make sure that people are not using others' logins or anything like that, you can of course ask them to enter in their username and password one more time. And then once that's all done, you just hit submit to QA. Once it's submitted to QA, you can actually, it'll start going through the process of a corrective action. One thing that we talk about specifically for corrective actions is making sure that you have visibility into the whole process. And so one thing I wanted to show you here, this is actually a report of corrective actions that we have within the system itself. This is something that quality managers truly love, and that's being able to see what corrective actions are in process and where they are in the process. And so the reporting within a system is very important to be able to give you that. And so what was it? It was a corrective action. What step is it at? These are all closed. Who initiated it? When was the start date? When was the end date? When did it expire? And where did it occur? These are all reports you can also customize for you as well. Next, we are going to go to our last compliance task, and that is how do you track equipment maintenance, calibration, and user competency. Name and ISO, they definitely talk about the control of monitoring and measuring devices. The one we're going to talk about today is specifically calibration procedures, and so making sure that you have a process in place that those people that need to perform those calibration procedures know what they're doing, and then also how they actually go about that process. And so best practice, number one, where is that document and is it easily found? So the document procedure for calibrations, can people actually find it pretty easily and is always going to be up to date? Two, do you have a way to track and test to guarantee procedure comprehension? Is there a way to test competency? Did the person that read the procedure, do you feel like they're actually ready to then perform calibration the right way? And then last but not least, once those are complete and the person has been taught how to do the calibration, how do you actually track that calibration policy through a workflow? And that'll be something we'll show you too. So let's go back to Qualtrics, and we're going to go pop back over to our inbox. And I'm going to go to this section over here on our inbox, and this is where our testing and trainings live. If you come to Qualtrics and you sign in and you have tests and trainings over here, those means that you need to actually complete those. So I'm going to click on this calibration procedure training, and it's going to take me to the actual training itself. And so you can read a description. It says to read the calibration procedure, select a date that I was trained, and then complete a test. The calibration procedure, I actually can link it directly from this page, and so this is a document that happens to be in Qualtrics. It is a controlled document. It's always the most up-to-date version. So this is a great way to link that there. I can say that when I was specifically trained. I can also attach a document saying when I was trained, and then add any comments. A question that we sometimes get in this area is, can you track trainings that are outside of your laboratory or outside of your office? Absolutely. If you have off-site trainings, or if you have things that happen online and you want to track them through the system, you absolutely can. From here, I would type in my username and password, hit training complete, and I would get prompted to take a test. So yes, I would like to take a test right now. We're not actually going to take a test, but I'm going to just show you some examples of what a test can look like. This happens to be one of the more complicated tests that we have in our demo system. Tests can be really anything you want to. This happens to be a multiple choice 5-question test that really is going to test whether or not you read that document and you understand. That might be something that you want to implement. You can even go as far as having a pool of questions that rotate, and so people get different questions if you want to make sure that they're not cheating. Another option, you can even just ask a simple question. Did you read and understand this document, yes or no? That can even be considered a test, and so there's a couple of different ways you can handle that. Once somebody completes this test, their manager signs off on it and verifies that they're ready to track and do their own calibration, then you can go to our next step. And our next step would be actually performing a calibration procedure. Well, believe it or not, we actually have a workflow for that. So I can go up to workflows and hit calibration report. And what this will actually do, if somebody is about to go through a calibration and they have a piece of equipment, they can come here, pick the type of equipment it is. We'll say it's glassware, give me the serial number. This will actually walk them through that whole entire calibration report that they have to submit and through that procedure. And so it can really be controlled if you want to. And so when you pop back over to your name standards and your ISO 17020, if you're with your auditor and they want to know how you are managing your full control of monitoring and measuring devices, this is a great way to show them. Like, we've got our document management that houses our document that explains the procedure. We have a way to test competency, and then on top of that, we have a way to make sure that the calibration report that they submit is accurate, just because we've got these workflows in place. Because they will not be able to push this calibration through until every single one of these required fields has been entered and submitted. All right, so that brings me to the end of our little discussion on our best practices, and so our common compliance tasks that we've actually reviewed today. We have a lot of different customers that use Qualtrics, and a lot of them that use it in different ways, and so we really try to get a lot of their feedback on how they're using it. However, we really do invite you to also speak with them too. So if you ever have any questions or want to be put in contact with somebody, we're always willing to do that, so you can ask straight from their experiences and how they're using the product itself. And as I approach 25 minutes, what I showed you today really just scratches the surface of what Qualtrics has to offer. And so there is much, much more that you can do to handle your accreditation needs within Qualtrics. We're happy to show you that. If you ever want a more in-depth demonstration, please let us know. We're happy to schedule that for you. We will be having more webinars like this and from guest speakers in the upcoming months, and so definitely be on the lookout for those. Some of our best webinars are actually webinars that are given by our customers that they just speak from their own experiences, and you can come on and ask them what they're doing and how they're managing specific areas to their accreditation. So let me go to our questions. All right. This is a very common question. Is this recorded? The answer is yes. This is a recorded webinar. We recorded this version, and it will be available for review. We can go ahead and send that out to you if you want to. Another place that you can always get more information is, I want to take you to our website. This is the Qualtrics website. If you come to this area called Events and Webinars, and you may have been here, this is actually where you could sign up for this webinar. There are also some other webinars I'd like to point out. We do a 30-minute Qualtrics introductory webinar every other Tuesday. This is a review of the system from start to end. We go through all of the functionality of document management, workflows, testing and training, and reporting. It's quick, 30 minutes, but it's a great overview. Another one that I want to point out is this one down here that we actually recorded last year. It's Don't Fear Accreditation for medical examiners. And it actually was done by our customer, Dr. Sue Howe, with the Crime Lab at Tarrant County. I'm sorry, not, well, the Crime Laboratory Manager at the Tarrant County Medical Examiner Office. And it really goes into their accreditation to 17025 and NAME. But we also had ANAB on this webinar. ANAB actually happens to be one of our customers. They also have just signed with NAME to start offering that accreditation, and we'll be also working with medical examiners on that 17020 accreditation as well moving forward. And so they were on this webinar, and they were giving best practices and just some information on where to get more information about these accreditations from ANAB. And so I highly recommend looking into this webinar. I'll go ahead and put it into the chat area for the whole entire audience if you want to check it out. It's a good resource. Whether you're going to use Qualtrics or not, it's always a good place to kind of go and kind of get an idea of what other people are saying, especially ANAB. They were talking about having some lunch and learns and some meetings around the country to kind of help with accreditation needs. So definitely check that out. All right. Well, I don't see any additional questions beyond that. Thank you everybody for joining me today. If you have anything else, please feel free to contact me. You can reach me at Karen@Qualtrics.com. My last name is Arriviaga, so I don't use my full email address, just Karen. My last name's a little hard, so please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.